Up, everybody? You are tuned in to the All Pro Nation podcast. We are back after a little bit of a hiatus away. My name is Chris Smith. Thank you guys for listening, for joining us. And as always, Tanner Weber. Tanner, how are you, buddy?
How's everybody doing?
Man, it's been a long time, huh?
Cricket noises in the back.
What's that?
Cricket noises in the back.
Guys, thank y'all so much. If you are one of our dedicated listeners from the last couple years, thank you guys so much for coming back. Life just got pretty crazy. Tanner moved across the country. We both took on new jobs. Life got hectic, and we just couldn't commit our time to All Pro Nation like we wanted to. And if we weren't going to do it 100%, we just didn't want to do it at all. But we've decided that we've taken enough time away, so we are back, baby.
Yes, sir.
So this is going to be a fun show. I'm sitting here. It's for us. We're recording this on a Thursday morning, 10:30 where I'm at, 9:30 where Tanner's at. Drinking a little coffee, eating a little breakfast, and we're just going to kind of recap the season, kind of talk through some things that surprised us, and just kind of see where the conversation goes. So, Tanner, what was your biggest surprise of the season?
The biggest surprise? I'd probably have to sit and think about it for a little bit, but off the top of my head, I would probably say how disappointing the Jaguars were this year.
Yes.
Just because of all the talent that they had going into the season, and didn't even contend necessarily for playoffs. They were bottom of their division for most of the year, and I just think it was a lot of wasted talent. And I don't think they should have brought Blake Bortles back. But what do you do if you win 2 playoff games? That's you're kind of stuck in a corner, force their hand.
Right. So obviously they're going to be in the sweepstakes for the services of probably Teddy Bridgewater. I liked Joe Flacco there, but obviously we know how that's turned out this week. So
Nick Foles.
Nick Foles. Well, I think the Eagles say they like to
try to trade him.
Yeah, they like to keep Nick Foles if they can, but he is up for trade, so Nick Foles would be a good one.
And Tyrod Taylor's a free agent too.
Yeah, so you got Tyrod. The Jags have options, all of them better than Blake Bortles, so it's just going to be real interesting to see where they go.
Also, we can't forget that they have the 8th pick in the draft, I believe.
So. Yeah, but I don't think what quarterbacks are going to be on the board at pick number 8.
Did you see who the new offensive coordinator is in Jacksonville?
I may have, and I'm just drawing a blank.
It's Mr. John DeFilippo.
Oh yes, I did.
I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, quarterback guru, quote unquote.
Yeah, quarterback guru. That's right.
Yeah, we saw how that worked out in Minnesota this year.
Yeah.
So I think for me, the most surprising thing was the Baltimore Ravens. We were both really, really high on them going into the season. I think we both picked them to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Hey, we got pretty close.
And and of course, I mean, you know what? I'm just done betting against Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. And so, till they retire, it's Patriots in the Super Bowl for me.
Yeah. I remember we had a pod last year, the week after the Super Bowl. I said that the Patriots weren't going to make the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
Or next year. And here they are.
Super Bowl
champions again.
With that big asterisk next to it. But we're going to save that conversation for a little bit later. I'm in a good mood right now. So we both picked the Ravens. The Ravens started out hot. I mean, they had one of the best defenses in the NFL. Obviously, they had problems at the quarterback position, and eventually they just made the switch and they benched Joe Flacco, who is a former Super Bowl MVP. For their first round draft pick in Lamar Jackson. Were you surprised?
Yes and no. I guess Lamar Jackson earned the job. I mean, when you keep winning games, I mean, you can't necessarily bench a quarterback, but I don't really think he just brings a different style. I mean, with the running system that they incorporated, it's completely opposite of what Joe Flacco did. So you can't.
Yeah.
It's really tough as a coach to go back and forth. Plug in. You can't just plug in Joe Flacco and completely change your system every week or week to week. It just makes it tough on the other guys and building chemistry within
Yeah.
that. So. They had no choice but to get rid of him. I mean, it's Lamar Jackson's team going forward. So
And for the life of me, for being such an amazing quarterback in his career, it astonishes me that John Elway just cannot seem to get this right in Denver. You I mean, look, I mean, Joe Flacco, is he better than what Case Keenum gave him last year? I mean,
no,
maybe barely, and I'm with you. I'm going to lean towards no. So you look at the quarterbacks that Elway's brought in. He brought in a crippled Peyton Manning. Now, granted, it won him a Super Bowl, but
his defense won him the Super
you're
Bowl.
right. You're right. His defense won him a Super Bowl, but Peyton didn't um, cause them to lose either. So
Yeah,
there's that. But then you had the Brock Osweiler experience, Paxton Lynch, Trevor
first round pick
Simeon,
failure.
um, and now Case Keenum.
Oh, don't forget about he didn't necessarily start any games, but I know there was a lot of promise. And oh my gosh, what is his name? I'm drawing a blank. The Mississippi quarterback.
Oh, Chad Kelly.
Yeah, Chad Kelly.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just like, and now here we have a aging, very much declined Joe Flacco, and that Denver defense is still one of the best, um, and they just can't seem to put a quarterback in position to get this team over the hump and back into serious playoff contention. And so you have to start to wonder. I know. Look, I know people in Denver. I've been to Denver. Denver's one of my favorite places in the country. He is idolized there. There's statues of John Elway. The fan base hasn't turned on him. The front office will not turn on him. I mean, this
Mhm.
is his job as long as he wants it. But you have to wonder, will there ever come a time where the franchise will want to part with him?
It's really tough. That's what happens when you tie yourself to former players.
Yeah,
And there can be some bad blood there when you end up departing.
yeah. Let's stay in the AFC, but switch across the country over to one of the biggest storylines of the year was the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, Le'Veon Bell. I called this at the beginning of the season. You said, "Ooh, that's too bold of a prediction." When I said Le'Veon Bell has played his last snap and will not play a snap for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year, were you genuinely surprised, or did you kind
Yeah.
of see that?
No, I really was. My boss at work actually is a Steelers fan, and I was just telling him all year. He was actually kind of saying the same thing you were. He's like, I don't think Bell's coming back. I don't think Bell's coming back. And I was like, there's no way. I was like, he's going to want to contend, try to get a ring this year. But I started to get a little bit more speculative the better that James Conner began to play.
Yeah.
So that made it really tough on Bell's decision, I think, as well. I think if Conner maybe wasn't playing as well, that may have influenced his decision a little bit more. But yeah, I am overall. I'm really surprised that he didn't play a single snap this year.
So I guess the biggest question is, where does he go? And I think if you're a betting man, you have to put uh, a lot of your money on the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, really?
I mean, no, bye bye Kareem Hunt. So
Hmm.
um,
Well, maybe. First reason, well, two things. So the first is Kansas City doesn't necessarily have a ton of cap space, and
that's
if
true.
Bell is actually going to try to get what he's saying he wants to get, what is it, like 15, 16 million a year?
That's what he's saying. Yeah.
Ridiculous. Or what did Todd Gurley get last year?
Didn't he get like only 11 or 12 million? Excuse me, 11 or 12 million a year?
Mm.
Let me look. I'll
I
look that
thought
up.
I
You
thought
keep
I thought it
talking.
was like 15, but anyway, Kansas City doesn't necessarily have a ton of cap, so they're going to waste everything on a back. and they already got Damian Williams, who played very, very well down the toward of their last stretch of the season there after Kareem Hunt left. Like he was even in fantasy league, he was putting up like 30 points a league. But and secondly, I just think there's better fits and options out there. You got the top two teams in the league in cap space right now. The Colts, number one, have over $100 million in cap space right now. Throw him in there with Andrew Luck.
Gurley is 14.5.
14 and a half, okay.
Yeah.
But think about this. Think about this, Chris. $107 million going into the offseason. You already got Andrew Luck.
Yeah.
Trade for Antonio Brown. And then sign Le'Veon Bell to go along with that. So Brown and Bell moved to Indianapolis. What about that?
Look, Indianapolis.
To go along with that offensive line.
You say whatever you want about Indianapolis. What they did in the second half of the season was super impressive considering the talent that they had. That was the most impressive team.
Hats off to Frank Reich.
Yeah, I mean, and let's not forget the storyline heading into the season with Indianapolis of McDaniels taking the job, then backing out, and Frank Reich basically being the second choice, or really the third choice, and he just came in and took the mantle and just he did outstanding job.
Oh yeah. Oh, they were. I would say for me, I would say the Colts were the most surprising team of the year. Not to the aspect of like the Rams last year being very surprising, but I mean they were way better this year than I thought they were going to be. I mean I thought their defense was going to be a mess, and they actually ended up being very serviceable throughout the year.
Yeah.
Back to the Bell situation, the other team I really like as a good fit is the Jets. They don't really have a number one clear-cut running back option right now, and I think they'll pay him whatever he wants.
Yeah, but I think Luck getting that comeback player of the year, I think that was a no-brainer choice too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of comeback player of the year, I kind of want to switch gears into one of the awards that I think was highly debated right there at the end of the year, and that's Offensive Rookie of the Year. Obviously, Saquon Barkley ended up taking the award home, but Baker Mayfield had a lot of people in his corner. Do you think the AP got it right?
I'm honestly so split on that, and I really would have been cool with whoever they selected. I think you could argue that Baker did. It's just what Baker was able to do this year. Look how long the Browns have had a quarterback drought. And it feels, I mean, we don't obviously know until next year, but it feels like he's ended that drought. They've had a drought at that position for 20 years. So just based off of that, I feel like I would have picked Baker, but I think Saquon did more with less.
Yeah. And then, Saquon, he ran away with not only Offensive Rookie of the Year, but Ground Player of the Year and Rookie of the Year. So he racked up a lot of awards. What about so another highly debated one was the NFL MVP award. Obviously, what Patrick Mahomes did was incredible. I mean, it was nothing short of incredible. But you have to look at Drew Brees and think that he had statistically a better season. And so statistically he hasn't thrown as many touchdowns as he has in the past, but in the other areas, completion percentage, etc., would you say this was arguably the best season of his career? Yeah, so I mean, dude, it's so hard when you look at the work that Brees has put up to pick out one single year. I personally still think 2011 was his best career year. So much happened for him that year. He, like Patrick Mahomes, threw for over 5,000 yards, and he had 49 touchdowns, where Patrick Mahomes ended with 53. Am I getting that right?
Yeah.
And then, so 2011, Drew Brees was the Patrick Mahomes of that that year, if you will. Obviously,
Hmm.
not the quickness of his feet and the crazy blind, not looking throws. I'm not saying that year Drew Brees was Patrick Mahomes. I'm saying their yards and touchdowns were very comparable. And that was also the year that he broke the consecutive games with a touchdown record that was held for so many years
Hmm.
by Unitas. And so I think that was just a very special year, and it's very hard for me to find a year that really competes with that year. Obviously, this year is probably neck and neck with that year, but I don't know. Um, if on completion percentage alone, I would give it to him.
So if you're asking me who I think, are you is that what the
Yeah, yeah.
question is?
Who do you who do you think should have won, or did the right
So
person
so
win?
in my mind, those guys are obviously top one and two. I suppose you could throw, I don't know, who's number three, Luck maybe, and
Mm,
he's kind of towards the bottom there, but
I think
obviously
I
Drew
think those
Brees.
two are 1 and 2, or 1A and 1B, and number two's not even close.
Yeah, yeah, yes, I agree. So you got Pat Mahomes and Drew Brees, and looking back, same thing with like Baker and Saquon. The way I look at it is, so Pat Mahomes obviously had an incredible year, but whose team would have went farther without their quarterback?
And so that was my biggest argument, was the the MVP stands for most valuable player, right?
Mm-hmm.
The player that is most valuable to his team. Should he not be there, that team fails.
Right. But and both
And
probably would have, but in this
but
aspect, I feel like the Saints have more all around talent on offense than what the Chiefs do. I think the Saints have a better offensive line, obviously better at running back. Um, Michael Thomas, Tyreek Hill are kind of a wash. Michael Thomas is still better, but they both have number one wideouts. And then after that, it's just I guess I forgot Travis Kelce as well, but
yeah,
um,
well, here's the thing. I think if I think that um I think that one Alex Smith had a winning season with arguably the same team last year.
uh-huh.
Um, and so I think that you have to consider that. I think you have to consider that. I think that should Breeze not be there, Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara are literally the only two people he threw to.
Mhm.
He had no tight end. Look, Ben Watson, as great as he is, obviously does not have it anymore.
Mhm.
They have nobody at the tight end position. There is no number two. We thought, if you look at the Saints season throughout the year, you're like, okay, Traquan Smith, and then he just kind of goes down, and then this guy Keith Kirkwood comes out of nowhere, but then he disappears,
Meredith
and
never
so
produced.
what's that?
Meredith never produced.
Meredith, he never made it past week 4 before he ended up back on IR. Ted Ginn missed almost the entire season. He came back at the end, and good God, was that not a lifesaver? And so you look at it and you're like, they were one Michael Thomas injury away from complete destruction
Mhm.
at the wide receiver position. And then you have to think, could any quarterback have put up the points and put up the stats that Drew Brees did with only Michael Thomas?
No,
So that's
no,
kind of
probably not.
where I'm at. And
Right.
and I'm
So
with you.
from
I think they both. I'm not mad that Mahomes won. I'm mad that I feel like the goalpost changes every time Drew Brees is up for the MVP.
Yeah, you got to think though too, as an AP voter, if you're an AP voter and you're voting, does your what does your conscience tell you if you vote for somebody else that doesn't throw at least for 50 touchdowns in a season? I mean, I think that's. I feel like that would be really tough to do. I mean,
Well,
you could vote for Drew Brees, and he's very deserving. I mean, don't get me wrong, but it's just I feel like it'd be very tough to vote against Pat Mahomes after the season that he had. It
well,
just seems like it's
and here's my thing. So let's jump back to 2011. Breeze over 5,000 yards and 49 touchdowns.
who won the MVP in 2011.
Oh, Aaron Rodgers based on
Oh,
completion percentage.
right.
Based on completion percentage. He at the time had the highest completion percentage of any NFL quarterback, and it wasn't even close.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, and obviously Green Bay went on to win the Super Bowl that year. I mean, they had the best record in the league. Uh, Yada
No,
yada.
no, they didn't. They didn't win that year. That was 2010.
Oh, 2010.
I can't. They got beat out in the second round. I can't remember who they lost to though.
Maybe Atlanta.
I'm drawing a blank. No, I don't think it was the Falcons.
Anyways, my point being, Aaron Rodgers wins the MVP that year based on completion percentage, and Drew Brees has, and everybody said, well, Drew Brees, Tom Payton, they're all about the stats. They just throw the football, throw, right? There is no running game. They have no defense. So Brees, and so there's always this negativeness. Well, now let's fast forward 8 years. Brees has he has the completion percentage, but another player has the yardage and the touchdowns, and now all of a sudden that's what we care about. And Brees had the best record too.
Mm-hmm.
And so he had what Aaron Rodgers had in 2011, but now we're back on touchdowns and yardage, and that's just kind of where I'm at, right? Like, let's set a parameter for MVP and let's stick to it. Let's not just pick the new toy every year.
Yeah. No, I get it. Especially considering the career he's had, it's just it's incredible that he has never won an MVP. It really is.
Yeah, and honestly, it's so predictable for a quarterback to win MVP. Can we please let Aaron Donald win one year? Like, I think just as bad as it is that Brees hasn't won one, it's equally as bad that Aaron Donald hasn't won.
Yeah, he's the most unstoppable defensive player in the league.
And so, I mean, it's just there's so many different ways you could go with MVP. All right, so let's switch gears. Let's get out of the controversial awards, and let's talk about the $100 million talking point, and that is the 10-year, $100 million contract John Gruden signed at the beginning of the year. That was a flop.
Oh my goodness. Raiders fans are crabby.
And so it's just what is going on?
How many wins did he have to get this year to justify that? So it's a 10-year contract, so you could give him a little bit of leeway, and he kind of walked into not necessarily the greatest situation. But how many wins did he have to get this year to at least try and justify his contract?
Oh, he had to make the playoffs, if you ask me.
Oh, okay. No, that's fair.
And now you're right. He walked into a bad situation, but to allow arguably the second best defensive player in the NFL to walk,
and then your best wideout,
and then you send your best wide receiver, who you raved about in the preseason. Oh, Amari's so great. He's going to have such a great year. I'm so excited to work with him. But we spend money on Jordy Nelson, and I just don't see the vision.
Dude, the Raiders are a complete disaster right now.
So my question,
it kept getting worse. Look at this. He reached in the first round on a draft pick last year on a player that should have been drafted probably late 2, early 3. Colton Miller. He was awful this year. He gave up like 17 sacks or something like that. I read the other day.
Yeah.
So their first round pick was a disaster. You get rid of your best wideout. You get rid of the second best defensive player in the league. You bring in Martavis Bryant. Wasn't healthy. Got suspended. Jordy Nelson's overaged. Your defense is a complete disaster. They don't have who is the best player on their defense right now? Do they even have like a single veteran that can step up and say that? Tahir Whitehead, is that their best player?
Yeah.
It's a mess. Their running backs are overaged. Doug Martin's a free agent. He was their 2-string. I think Jalen Richard, he's a free agent. It's just they don't have anybody right now. And Derek Carr, and it seems like him and Gruden aren't on the same page. This is going to be more than a 1-year thing. I don't know if John Gruden will make it through a second year.
Well, my question is the hiring of John Gruden really just to have people talking about the Raiders for the move to Las Vegas?
Sell tickets, I guess.
I mean, I can't imagine that it's more than that. And so that's a complete disaster. Question, do you think that it eventually works?
No.
No.
You with Gruden?
Yeah, with Gruden. Do you think that
No,
eventually works?
I think the Raiders are going to end up firing him next year because the fan base is going to start calling for heads.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just gonna lose out on a bunch of money. They're gonna end up cutting him next year, getting rid of him, firing him, and it's just tough for them. They're not even gonna be able to win in that division.
Yeah.
How can you stay competitive with where the Chiefs are at right now? The Chargers are playing really well,
Yeah.
and I expect the Broncos to be better next year too with Vic Fangio as the head coach. So
Yeah.
they're gonna end up in 4th place again.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go. Let's talk about Boy Wonder now. Everybody is trying to find the next Sean McVay. Year three, Sean McVay has now taken his team to the playoffs in back-to-back years and now a Super Bowl. Did not call his best game in the Super Bowl, but overall, is the McVay experiment proving to be beneficial for the Los Angeles Rams?
It has to be.
Yeah.
Can you really say that it's not?
Well, let me ask you this: is it going to continue?
Yeah.
Is he really that good of an offensive coordinator, or have we just not figured out his play calling yet?
No, I think it's a mix. I think it's a mix of talent, etc. They have a really good offensive line this year.
Yeah.
And I'm really curious to see what it looks like without Andrew Whitworth because I know he's really getting up there in the years, and I really don't know how many years he's going to play. I think he's like 36 or something.
Yeah.
But once Jared Goff doesn't have a left tackle that is elite, like top 3 elite, then I think that'll kind of give us a better understanding. But I still think Sean McVay he's got to be top 2 offensive coordinator in the league.
Yeah.
Being able to skill design around some of these defenses. I mean, the Patriots obviously shut the offense down, but was there really a team that could stop the Rams this year? I mean, consistently?
Yeah, no.
So, I mean, I think Jared Goff, it just feels like he's a system quarterback. He's really good, but I don't know if he would continue that same success on the other team. I just think Sean McVay is kind of overshadowing that a little bit.
And something has to be wrong with Todd Gurley, right? He has to be nursing some type of an injury.
Yeah, he could be.
I mean, I just don't understand how he was so dynamic all year. Then come the playoffs, if they wouldn't have had C.J. Anderson, they wouldn't have had a running game.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. Maybe it's just the competition is better in the playoffs, but I don't know. All right, so let's try to think back. I want to kind of relive some of what I think were the better games of the 2018 season.
Better games.
Yeah, so I'll throw a couple out at you. Week 14, Dallas Cowboys over the Philadelphia Eagles, but it went to overtime.
That was in Philly, right?
What's that?
Was that in Philadelphia?
Yes. That was a fun game. That was a real fun game. That's when you really started seeing Dak Prescott connect with Amari Cooper, and really those two really find their stride.
We got to get a Cowboys fan on here at some point this offseason. I am just like shocked when I go on social media and just like read on some other fans' reactions. Dallas Cowboy fans literally think Dak Prescott's like a top 5 QB in this league. It's incredible.
They do.
It's amazing. I don't understand it.
They do.
It's so funny. He's pretty good, but I don't think he'll ever be anything more than just like a really good game manager.
But I thought that was a fun game. Another game that was real fun that kind of started a lot of jokes at the beginning of the season. Week 1, Tampa Bay Buccaneers 48-40 over the New Orleans Saints. Started the Fitzmagic memes.
With the beard and the
the it was a magical 4 weeks. It was a magical 4 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
Fitzmagic was literally the best thing in football for the first 4 weeks of the year.
I'm still not happy about that game. I picked the Saints in my Survivor League the very first week, and they blew it for me.
Yeah, that was rough. And then of course another epic game I think was the Chargers and the Chiefs right there at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm. Phillip Rivers, defining moment for him.
Thursday Night Football. That was a fun game.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously I think the absolute game of the year has to go to the Rams and the Chiefs back in Week 11.
Yeah, I was gonna say something if you didn't bring that up, but yes, I agree, 100%. Third highest scoring game in league history.
Yeah, that was the game. It was supposed to be in Mexico City, but ended up being in Arrowhead.
Or Los Angeles.
Oh, Los Angeles, that's right. And that was just a fun game. That was super. It's just like you were watching it, and every time one team got the advantage, the other team
countered,
made a move, and that was probably the funnest game of the entire year. And had that turned out to be the Super Bowl, I think it would have happened like that again. That would have been a lot more enjoyable than what we got this year in the Super Bowl.
Oh yes, 100%.
But
this was actually the first Super Bowl since 2000 that I did not watch. I didn't watch a single minute of it. I was driving to San Diego, so I didn't really have a chance to. But I didn't watch a single minute of the Super Bowl this year.
I didn't. Instead, I did throw a Super Bowl party, but I did not watch the Super Bowl. We put on the 2009 Super Bowl of the Saints versus the Colts, and relived that. And
sat there with your popcorn and spread some tears
no tears. Very, very joyful.
Yeah, they're supposed to be happy tears.
So, all right. So, anything else about the regular season that just kind of stands out to you?
Not really off the top of my head. Not that I can think. I'm really shocked that. Actually, no, I'm not really shocked. I was going to say bring the Browns up, the success that they had this year.
Yeah,
and they're going to be damn competitive next year.
Yeah, they are. It's going to be fun. Baker Mayfield he's fun.
Yeah, he's fun to watch.
Yeah.
But I kind of predicted that record. I thought they'd be right at about 500 this year. So I can't say that really surprised me, but it was really kind of fun to see the Browns be successful again.
Yeah. And guys, over the next couple of weeks, we're going to do our year in reviews for the divisions and really get in depth with the teams. This is just more just kind of talking back and forth, first show back. So if we didn't talk about your favorite team or we didn't get too in depth on the teams in the season, just know we've got plenty of stuff. It's going to be a long off season, so we've got to save some of our content. All right, let's move into the postseason now. And so the postseason, we can start with the Chiefs Colts and the no, not the Chiefs Colts. Let's wild card weekend.
So Colts Texans.
Colts Texans. There it is.
Pretty boring game. Texans didn't show up. I mean, the game was in their own house, and they just didn't shut Andrew Luck down, and they lost.
Yeah. But
Deshaun Watson was kind of disappointing. But granted, that's one thing. A lot of people, I feel like they don't understand it, but Deshaun Watson had the worst offensive line in football this year.
He did, and
he was knocked down. Like I think I saw QB hits was 130 or something this year. It's ridiculous. Constantly on his ass. And I think he played every game, too.
Yeah, and he's going to be back in the playoffs. So
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah,
he
definitely.
he's amazing. Uh, also in the AFC, we had Ravens Chargers. Uh, Chargers were kind of lucky to get through that game for a minute.
Let me ask you this, Chris. Ravens Chargers. So that game, I know it was very. A lot of people were speculative at halftime. What would you have done regarding Lamar Jackson's first half? Would you have pulled him and put in Joe Flacco, or is it Lamar Jackson's team? You got to stick with him.
Yes, at that point, it's Lamar Jackson's team, and you have to stick with him.
Okay, I was just curious. So I know a lot of people were in the Joe Flacco crowd. If your system's obviously not working or what you're doing's not working,
Yeah,
maybe you go to another type of offense. But
yeah, that's hard. That's a hard decision to make. I think at that point though, I think the Ravens had made their mind up. They knew Flacco wasn't going to be there next year, and so go ahead, let Jackson get the experience because you know what? Sometimes your greatest failures are your better learning experiences. And we could sit here and do all the different Jim Rohn quotes and whatnot. Zig Ziglar. It doesn't matter how many times you fall; it's how many times you get up. Bull crap. But it's absolutely true. And so I think that at that point you let Lamar get the learning experience because he too, just like Deshaun Watson, he's going to be back. This Ravens team is got a bright future ahead of it. So
yeah, I agree. Ravens will be competitive again next year too.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. All right. Probably the best game of Wild Card Weekend. Cowboys Seahawks. That was an exciting game, but the Cowboys pulled it off.
Yep.
And
yeah, they were tough to beat at home this year.
They were. My biggest surprise of the Cowboys was as dominant as Van Der Esch was playing, that they even thought it was a good idea to let Sean Lee play again. And I think that came to haunt them in the divisional round against the Rams. I think Van Der Esch should have played more snaps. But that was a good game. And then I think the biggest surprise was Bears Eagles. Poor Cody Parkley.
Oh yeah, the death threats, man.
God, that was a bummer.
Yeah, I feel really bad for him. I really do. It's got to be tough to be a kicker in this league, and you don't really see the field a whole lot, and then you get put on the field for one play, and it ends up determining whether or not your team gets to move on to the next round, and then you have an entire fan base hating you.
I mean, and Bears fans, if it makes you feel better, or Cody Parkley, if it makes you feel better, the ball was tipped. So the offensive line deserves just as much blame for not blocking well enough and letting the defender get in there and put their hand up. Vice versa, people say, well, the kicker's trajectory was off and he shouldn't have kicked it so low. Whatever. A lot of things went wrong on that kick. It wasn't just Cody Parkley's fault.
Yeah.
Then we moved into the divisional round. I mean, Colts Chiefs, that was just
boring.
Yeah, boring.
It's a pretty boring game. Chiefs dominated.
Yeah, Chargers Patriots, boring.
Oh my gosh, that was the worst playoff game.
Yeah, that was terrible. Rams Cowboys, as exciting as it was, Rams came up on top, and then Eagles Saints. That
was a good game too.
It was a good game, but yeah. Eagles surprised me making it this far into the season with their injuries.
Oh my gosh. It's just week after week, people continue. I still asking myself, how the hell does Nick Foles do it?
I don't know.
It's just like, no, it's not even just like him necessarily, like his production as a quarterback, but just like the team around him. It's like something just triggered when they switched over from Nick Foles to Carson Wentz, and it doesn't make sense because Carson Wentz is better than Nick Foles.
Yeah.
So they just responded better to him. I don't
I don't
get it.
understand it. And to hear people say they should trade Wentz and re-sign Foles is just asinine to me that somebody would even consider that.
We got to get Big Vic on here.
Oh gosh, Big Vic,
our Eagles fan, Big Vic. He's gonna.
Big Vic, I'm ready to debate you about anything and everything as it relates to the NFL. This is an open challenge. You are more than welcome to come on the podcast anytime this offseason. I would love to debate you. I would love to bring our Twitter arguments to vocal cords and to the earbuds of all the listeners. It would be my pleasure.
We're gonna be switching the podcast over to we're gonna call it Second Take. It's gonna be like ESPN's version of First Take.
It would be amazing. Then we have the conference championship games. Chiefs Patriots, great game.
That was a terrific game.
That was a terrific game.
They were both great games.
And then obviously the Super Bowl. Patriots took care of business, and that was the 2018 season.
Mm-hmm.
So,
man, dude, it just feels like it just came and gone.
So can we at least discuss the no call?
Well, we're gonna discuss it. We haven't hit on the other championship game yet.
I know. I purposely skipped it.
Yeah, we're gonna give you the floor.
I purposely skipped it. All right. Yeah.
Here, let me turn my volume down on my earbuds. 1 second. Oh, Mr. Goodell, are you listening?
All right. Go ahead. If you are tired of hearing about the Saints-Rams championship game, if you have sensitive ears, go ahead and turn the podcast off. Fast forward a few minutes. These motherfuckers! Fuck! How do you miss that fucking call? How do you miss that call? 3 of them were looking right at it.
Yeah. It's been an ongoing debate, the refereeing in the league. It was really bad in that game.
God.
I didn't get to watch it because I was actually at the Grand Canyon that weekend. But I remember checking my phone and seeing a bunch of tweets about a missed call. And I actually had to have somebody tweet me the link to see it, but it was a jaw-dropping reaction to see something like that in that big of a game, in that big of a moment, that late in the game, to miss that kind of a call. So I don't know what the league needs to do going forward. I don't know if there needs to be like a referee.
Well,
if they need to have like a warning count, like if you miss calls like that, you need to get you need to get written up or.
Well, here I am. All right, so I've got all the answers. Roger Goodell, are you listening? Hire me, Roger Goodell. Hire me. I've got the solution, and I didn't even come up with it.
Make plays reviewable.
The AAF came up with it. Did anybody watch AAF games? They have a fucking sky judge that can throw a flag from the press box. He can also pick up flags. He can also correct no calls. And it worked perfectly this first weekend of the AAF. Why hasn't the NFL thought of this? Make them reviewable. Bill Belichick has been harping on and make everything reviewable. It's not going to slow down the game. Don't give the teams any more challenges. You still get 2 challenges and you're awarded a 3rd if you get your first 2 right. Keep the rules the same. Just make everything challengeable.
It's not. I mean, this was a really good example because it was a very crucial game to go to the Super Bowl. But if you look back, you could probably find 10 to 15 games throughout the 2018 season.
Oh, no doubt.
That were decided on a stupid call like that.
Well, and look, and let's call a spade a spade. The Patriots are probably Super Bowl champions because of poor officiating. Do not think it was a roughing the passer
Yeah.
that flagged them there in overtime.
Yeah.
So the officiating all season. You're right, it was terrible. But here's what gets me about this call.
They don't fix it.
This is what gets me about this call. Cowboys fans, oh, well, did Dez caught it? Dez caught it, blah, 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 blah. You know what? You want to know the difference between the Dez caught it and the NFC Championship game of 2018? One was debatable, one was not.
Mm-hmm.
One is debatable. Did he catch it? Depending on the camera angle, both camera angles showed something different, so who knows? Based on the rules, I think he caught it, but that's just me. But this was right in front of 3 officials. 2 officials on the sideline and 1 in the end zone looking right at it. There are 3 different angles. Somebody should have called that flag.
Not one.
And okay, you don't know if it's pass interference? Hey, that's fine. Call the helmet to helmet.
Or throw a flag and discuss it.
Because here's the thing. We bash the NCAA about their officiating and all the time, especially when it comes to the stupid targeting rule. But you know what the NCAA did right? Targeting is immediately reviewed by the booth when the flag is thrown. If they just think that you did a helmet-to-helmet targeting, they throw the flag and then they review it. Why won't the NFL do that? NFL told me they cared about player safety, but they stopped calling helmet-to-helmet back in week 8.
Mm-hmm.
If you go back and you look at the whole season as a whole, the beginning of the season versus the end of the season, they didn't call helmet-to-helmet at the end of the season, but they were calling it every other fucking play at the beginning of the season.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, I'm done. It's going to get a lot more family-friendly from here. So, I apologize, you guys. Thank you for bearing with me.
Are you looking forward to the owners' meeting?
What's that?
You looking forward to the owners and coaches meetings in April?
Oh, I think it's going to be fun. I'm excited to see what changes the competition committee is going to make because for those of you who do not know, the head of the competition committee is none other than Mr. Sean Payton himself. So,
yeah, you can bet there will be some.
Oh, and for those of you who don't know, another coach that's on the competition committee is Mr. Bill Belichick, who has been advocating to make everything challengeable for the last decade. So you can almost guarantee that that's going to be a rule change.
It makes things more fair.
But
plain and simple.
I thought the Sky Judge in the AAF game, I thought that was a brilliant.
Oh yeah.
Thought that was
absolutely
brilliant.
It's like it's basically like a second system checking yourself.
And then you know what else I thought was really cool about AAF, and we're going to talk about AAF and XFL and all the cool things in the middle of the summertime when we got nothing else better to talk about, and they have their championship game. We'll talk about that, but I will say I watched the games this past week, and one thing I thought was super cool is when they had the challenges. And you saw the referee on the field and a referee in the booth, and you could hear them talking about the challenge and working through what they see.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very transparent. You could hear on the TV the 2 officials talking to each other. Thought that was super cool. If the NFL wants to continue with this enhancement of the game for fans, I think that would be a really cool element to add to the game.
Yeah,
let fans kind of see. What the referees are seeing. I think that's a really cool element. I'd like to see that.
I agree.
But anyways, well, that was the 2018 season. It was a lot of fun. It went by way too fast. I feel like
it always does. It always does.
But it was good. It was a lot of fun. So, guys, thank you so much for listening to our first episode since the 4th of July weekend. We recorded an episode a few weeks before 4th of July, but we didn't release it till after July 4th. And that was the last the last episode we recorded. And so it's been a long time. It's been a good 6-7 months. So uh, we're happy to be back. Uh, we are going to do podcasts more regularly. Um, and we're
Not
gonna
quite
pick.
as long. They won't be as long as our past episodes, but
Yeah, so going forward,
right.
this one was just fun. We just got to talk. Me and Tanner, actually, we haven't really talked to each other in forever. We're going to try to keep podcasts to 20-30 minutes. Maybe the longer episodes will go 45 tops. So shorter episodes. You got to check out the new websites being built right now. We're rebranding. All Pro Nation is going to be all new. And so and I think by next week's episode, you'll be able to check out the new website that'll be live. You still find us in the in the iTunes podcast store. If you want to be a part of what we're doing on All Pro Nation, this podcast is open to you, to your friends, your family. We want you to come on. We want you to talk sports, because that's all we're going to talk about is talk sports. So if you want to be a guest on the podcast, just shoot me and Tanner a message on the Twitterverse, or find us at All Pro Nation. Send us a message there. Say, hey guys, I want to be on the podcast. Open invitation. You can talk. You can come on for 5 minutes. You can come on for the whole show. Whatever you want to do. Remember, All Pro Nation is where you have a voice. If you want to write some articles, we're going to be revamping our written section, so that's going to be really cool. So we got a lot of cool stuff in the works with All Pro Nation. We're going to kind of figure out a schedule with podcasts. So I think we're going to record. We're recording an episode next week, right, Tanner?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
so we're going to record an episode next week. We'll put out some regular content. We're going to kind of figure out if we're going to do weekly or bi-weekly. We're going to figure all that out, with our schedules as they are. But it's going to be a lot of fun, and I can't wait to take on this new journey with you guys. So, do you have anything else you want to add, Tanner?
Yeah, I'm excited to be back doing this again. It should be fun. It's going to be a fun off season. We are less than a month away from free agency, so there's going to be a lot of NFL news streaming around on the internet and stuff. We got the draft coming up here. I would actually like to, I don't know for sure yet, but I would like to do an interactive mock draft. We did some last year. For those of you that followed along with us, we did an interactive mock draft on Twitter. Looking to do that on Sunday. If you'd like to participate, just follow us on Twitter, and we're going to go through each pick of the first round. There's going to be 4 options for each team, and you just pick the player you think that team should select. So that's a good way to get fans involved. That'll be a lot of fun.
Each team will be on the clock for what, 5 minutes?
Correct. 5 to 10 minutes. I'll figure it out from there.
Yeah, so 5 to 10 minutes. So we'll go through all 32 teams not all 32 teams. We'll have a first round pick. But we'll go through I think there's 28 teams picking in the first round. So we'll go through all 32 picks. It'll be fun. We'll do that. We'll discuss the results next week on our podcast. Again, if you want to be on the podcast, just shoot us a message. If you want to write on the website, shoot us a message. Check us out, allpronation.com, on Twitter and Facebook at allpronation. You can follow me on Twitter at 318ChrisSmith and Tanner at _purple_post. So until next week, guys, peace out. Are you not going to say bye?
Bye, guys.